skydiving. Hope comes and stops us in our tracks. Bravely we prove in our striving, trudging together each day. Where there's a will, there's a way.
Hello, hello. All right, just doing a little bit of setup here. Whoop. Looks like we already got some people here. Good to have you. It's good to have you. As always, why is there should be no reason for my computer to be going blung. What is going on? I want to know why it blunged. Oh. All right. All right. We just got some new people that are kind of joining. Hey, Michelle. Good to see you. Oh, got it reset, huh? I heard that's a painful one. Yeah. Would you like to join me on camera? No? Okay. I've come on here black and blue. I was on here right after my surgery. Of course, it was my gallbladder, so that was a little different. But I hope you have a good speedy recovery here. It's amazing what an AA meeting can kind of do to get us back to where we need to be. So I'm still a little depressed. There's some twinges, but it's neat how life can work, man. Let's go. Are we at 3 minutes? We're close enough. Let's go ahead and do some introductions. Welcome to Daily Church. My name is Dion. I'm your host. I haven't done some things here for a while that I'm going to do some quick announcements after this. If you're here, please say hello, whether you're watching the live or the rewatch. And what this is what we call the Daily Trudge. And I've been doing this every day for close to 7 years now. Sup, woman. Amber, it's good to see you. So, please feel free to use the chat feature if you haven't joined us before. The way this works is I'm more interactive. I don't have a bunch of people that show up. Hey, Chris, good to see you. Merry Christmas, yeah. Merry Christmas, brother. It's good to see you. All right, everybody caught on this one. Yeah, if you have a different view or a different experience, we want to hear about it. I may even bicker with you a little bit, but we're going to get you the right answer. That's what we're really going for. I don't always have all the right answers, but I'm certainly willing to bring up the conversation to get to one. Now, today I'm doing this because I feel like there's a lot of emotional for me and some of the people I've been hearing in meetings. There's been a lot of emotional baggage through the holidays. Some of us had a great holiday, and I'm so glad to hear that. Some of us, this was our first Christmas that we got to spend with family, and maybe it was a little confusing, but it was probably more fun than it was confusing. I love going to meetings this time of year and hearing people say things like, man, that was a lot better than I thought it was going to be, or I'm so glad I woke up and remembered Christmas. These are the benefits to early sobriety. What we're going to talk about here today is emotional sobriety. These used to be 12 to 15 minutes long. Now they can go up to an hour. But if you have to go or leave, it really is. So don't feel bad if you have to go. Okay? I don't get upset about that. So, anymore. I'm going to have to get a new book. I mean, this page is literally coming out of the book. All right. Just means it's been used. So let's get started. If you'd like to follow along, let's do this. Because I know some people like to follow along, and you may not have the book. So this is what I'm going to do real quick. Emotional Sobriety PDF. Look at that. It was already there. All right. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take this and we'll put it in the chat. And if you want to follow along and you don't have the book, there it is. All right. If you have the book, which is the language of the heart, that's a nice picture of the back of Bill's head. Looking at it's actually the format for AA Comes of Age, which is another book, but AA Comes of Age has a lot of history in it. So let's get to emotional sobriety. Let's find out what it's about. Let's do this. The next frontier, emotional sobriety. This date is important. January 1958. That date is important here. And I'll say why here in a little bit. This article is the substance of a letter Bill wrote to a close friend who also had troublesome depressions. Okay. Emotional sobriety, there's a part in how it works where it says some of us have mental disorders, but if we have the capacity to be honest, we can make it. We're talking about these other mental disorders that the fourth and fifth step, the seventh, eighth, and ninth, they just wouldn't take care of them. All right. So, all right. I think that many Ulsters who have put our AA booze cure to severe but successful tests still find they often lack emotional sobriety. Perhaps they will be the spearhead for the next major development in AA, the development of much more maturity and balance, which is to say humility in our relations with ourselves, with our fellows, and with God. Now, let's go back to that date. Because I didn't hear about this, and I knew a lot. I never heard about emotional sobriety till about, 6 years ago, 6, 7 years ago. So it wasn't the spearhead, right? The thing is sorry. I was hoping it would come back, but it didn't. So we're just going to go ahead and move on. Those adolescent urges that so many of us have for top approval, perfect security, and perfect romance, urges quite appropriate to the age of 17, proved to be an impossible way of life when we were at the age of 47 or 57. Now, I'm going to comment on that. But before I do, if you're new to this, there's about a 10 to 12 second lag. So even if you say something, I may not comment on it for a little bit, but I usually do get to it. So, because I don't have a bunch of people here that are posting blah, 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 and talking back and forth in chat. No, we don't do that here. So, all right. So what was this? Well, I started drinking at the age of 13. Okay. And what happened was that is where I became emotionally stunted. Okay. And my emotional development would end there. So for years, I would be 13 years old, right? When I didn't get what I wanted, I would throw myself on the floor and whine and cry until I got it. Well, they don't appreciate that stuff at 35, 40 years old. They don't appreciate it at 20, 21, 25, 17. No. See, it was my failure to grow up. Since AA began, I've taken immense wallops in all these areas because of my failure to grow up, emotionally and spiritually. My God, how painful it is to keep demanding the impossible, and how very painful to discover finally that all along we've had the cart before the horse. Then comes the final agony of seeing how awfully wrong we have been, but still finding ourselves unable to get off the emotional merry-go-round. That was kind of me yesterday, but it wasn't as bad. It wasn't as bad. So there's progress there. Okay. So, how to translate a right mental conviction into right emotional results and so into easy, happy, and good living. Well, that's not only the neurotics problems, it's the problem of life itself for all of us who have got to the point of real willingness to hew to the right principles in all of our affairs. Before I comment on that, I remember what I was going to say earlier on the first paragraph. Why is it that it didn't quite get there? Well, men are allowed to talk about their feelings and do all of this. That's a very sticky wicket. It is, you know. So Gen Xers that kind of opened it up a little bit. But yeah, so it was kind of hard to do at the same time. All right. Anyway, so, we've been, we're willing to do all these things, but yet we still have troublesome depressions, anxiety, PTSD. There's a lot of things that come into play. All right. So this is what I found. I found that the AA program, alleviates a lot of things so that I can start to work on my emotional sobriety. Emotional sobriety is usually brought up about the seventh step, right after that fifth, when we realize that we've been depending on other people to supply us with things. And it was wrong. It was wrong, right? Hi, Kathy. Oh, man. Kathy, I'm sorry to hear that. I hope you're okay. Please keep coming and checking in. I want to make sure that you're okay. All right. But I am very happy to see you. And man. So we have this willingness, but it doesn't seem to continue going forward. Well, what's good for this? Well, therapy is a good place to start. Okay. And a lot of times people say, well, I tried therapy, it didn't work. Well, of course it didn't work. You're an alcoholic. You in order for therapy to work, you have to be honest. I'm already not qualified. Right? This is not a self-help program. This is a help yourself program, right? Okay. Yet sometimes it doesn't let you chat for some silly reason. So, and I apologize about that. Amber is real good at that. Amber, could you explain how the chat works, how you do it, if you have a second, please? Because so that way other people may know. I've never experienced it, so I don't know. Even then, as we hew away, peace and joy may still elude us. That's a place so many of us AA ulcers have come to, and it's a hell of a spot, literally. How shall our unconscious, from which so many of our fears, compulsions, and phony aspirations still stream, be brought in line with what we actually believe, know, and want? How to convince our dumb, raging, and hidden Mr. Hyde becomes our main task. People with depression people don't hide being happy. They hide being depressed. I do it. Because sometimes the thought process is, well, if I laugh enough, maybe I won't feel so depressed. But it's just a band-aid. It does not really alleviate it. And I'll give you a perfect example of what we're talking about. Robin Williams. Robin Williams was over 30 years sober when he died. Couldn't take it. I get where he's coming from. I understood there were some interviews that he did that, man, I just understood. There's a line by in a song called Nutshell that says, how's it go? It's pretty much saying, I'd rather be dead than misunderstood. I understand that. I understand it. Okay. Now, I've recently come to believe that this can be achieved. It can be. Okay. Now, again, this isn't going to be perfection, but and this is why I brought up the sixth step, but we're going to move towards perfection. We're going to try that. So, I've recently come to believe that this can be achieved. I believe so because I begin to see many benighted ones, folks like you and me commencing to get results. Last autumn, depression, having no really rational cause at all, almost took me to the cleaners. I began to be scared that I was in for another long chronic spell. Considering the grief I've had with my depression, it wasn't a bright spot. Okay. I'm going to use Christmas as an example here so that we can kind of understand what it is that we're talking about. There was no valid reason in my head yesterday for my depression. There was no reason for it. Okay. I woke up on Christmas morning, and it was the second time since my daughter's been alive that I got to spend Christmas morning with her. I had my grandkids, I had my kids here, and it was beautiful. But my brain just wouldn't go that way. All right. So we're going to start getting into the solution here. I just had a talk with somebody, and this is neat. I'm just going to go ahead and tell this story. I was in a meeting, right? And no, there'll be no names, okay? And people were bringing up other drugs in the meeting, and I didn't approach it the best way. I could have done a little bit better, but what I was saying is that it doesn't matter because it's not the point. No, I kind of upset somebody, and after the meeting, they kind of asked about it, and so we discussed it, and it was kind of hard to do. Sure, it was, but it turns out this person needed help. There we go. Right? They needed help. And they're like, I've been trying to look for a sponsor, and I'll be your temporary sponsor. If I don't work for you, then we'll find somebody else. See, that was God. Okay. That was the answer to my troublesome depression, getting out of myself. All right. But that could be hard. It could be hard. So I kept at, last autumn, depression I began to be scared that I was in for another long chronic spell. Considering the grief I've had with depression, it wasn't a bright prospect. I kept asking myself, why can't the 12 steps work to release depression? By the hour, I stared at the St. Francis prayer. It's better to comfort than to be comforted. Here was the formula, all right, but why didn't it work? Okay. And he's about to tell you why it didn't work. So suddenly, I realized what the matter was. My basic flaw had always been dependence, almost absolute dependence, on people or circumstances to supply me with prestige, security, and the like. I'm going to put my finger right there. Why is this? We are an abandoned people. Yes, we are. Yes. It's part of why, maybe what I was going through. Just a lot of people kind of left, and I feel a little abandoned. I understand it. I get it. But that doesn't mean that those emotions aren't there. Okay? And it's okay to have them. What are you going to do about it, right? So here again, we're back to our tapping our own inner resource that we never realized that we had until we got into the program and started doing some of this work. Okay. Now, as an alcoholic, you said it before, I always have the cart before the horse. My brain does not think any other way. So therefore, as an alcoholic, I need to do a little more work. I need to do a little more work. I need to take an extra step here. And that extra step is stated. Okay, we'll get to it. All right. Failing to get these according to my perfectionist dreams and specifications, I had fought for them. And when defeat came, so did my depression. Now I get it. Because I fought for it too. Fought for it. What does it say? We got to stop fighting. That includes yourself. And I do that a lot. Depression is me kind of fighting myself in my view, right? So right there, I'm already off the beam because I'm fighting it. Okay. There are some things that we have to let go And there's some things we let stay, like emotions, so we can work on them. Talk with somebody else. Let them know what's going on. Okay. Um, there wasn't a chance of making the outgoing love of Saint Francis a workable and joyous way of life until these fatal and almost absolutely dependencies were cut away. Now, it's going to be a little weird because you're going to have to use something that we say is a no-no. Willpower. You got willpower. You got it. I got willpower. I got willpower for a lot of things, but not alcohol. No. So we just decide, oh, well, I'm just going to totally give up willpower. Well, in the beginning, that's a good idea because I don't know how to utilize my will yet. So that might be a good thing. But once you start getting through the steps, some of this stuff starts to apply. Even with alcohol, you may be going through, maybe you're having a little bit of an obsession, and it takes all the willpower you have to lift up the phone and call someone. Right? Okay. Because I had over the years undergone a little spiritual development, the absolute quality of these frightful dependencies had never before been so starkly revealed. Reinforced by what grace I could secure in prayer. Okay, so we need that grace first. There's a process. I found I had to exert every ounce of will and action to cut off these faulty emotional dependencies upon people, upon AA indeed, and upon any set of circumstances whatsoever. Then only could I be free to love as Francis had. Emotional and instinctual satisfactions I saw were really the extra dividends of having love, offering love, and expressing a love appropriate to each relation of life. That was a key for me because I needed an answer. And the answer was appropriate love. The Beatles had it right. It's love. Love's the answer here. You gotta love yourself first. Okay? Because I need to stop using other people. I'm just going to use social media as an example here. Okay? When I post something, it is to help somebody else out. It is not for likes or loves or patting Dion on the back. No. Not even these. No. Mm-mm. I just like sharing a lot. Yeah, we'll just call it what it is. I do this because I like being the center of attention. There's nothing wrong with that, utilized correctly. Like helping other people out. So it says extra dividends. What are dividends? See, I always thought happiness was the goal. And I found out that it wasn't. I found out that happiness is a dividend of a job well done. It's the only way for me. If I do not feel useful, my happiness is probably not going to be there. Okay. So what happened with my depression? Well, somebody was on the meeting and I was able to help somebody else. And before you knew it, I wasn't thinking about Dion anymore. I wasn't thinking about me. Right? Instead, I was trying to help somebody else out. I got out of self. And you got to do it with love. Now, this is kind of a hard one because for me, love always equaled sex. Yeah. It's what that meant. So I had to learn. That's why expressing a love appropriate to each relation of life. And that helped me. It's like, oh, I am free to love because it's not what I thought it was. There's Dion with the cart before the horse again. Right? So the answer is love by getting out of self. Okay? Let's take it even further. Unconditional love. Plainly, I could not avail myself to God's love until I was able to offer it back to him by loving others as he would love me. Ooh, yes, loving other people like your higher power loves you. Oh, it's simple. No, but for us alcoholics, it's going to take some work, right? So mark it up with progress, man. Mark it up with progress, right? With my depression and this, what's the progress? I wasn't depressed for as long. There's the progress. Quite often I hear people say, "Oh, I slipped and I came back," and I'm like, "You came back? That's progress. It's very much progress." I always tell people that are down about that. Just because your date changed doesn't mean shit. It might hurt a little bit. Did for me, sure it did. I got tired of writing my sobriety date in my. I got tired of writing my sobriety date in pencil. I wouldn't commit and put it in pen. And I couldn't possibly do that so long as I was victimized by false dependencies. For my dependency meant demand, a demand for the possession and control of the people and the conditions surrounding me. What does that sound like? Sounds like fear. Yeah. That to me that would be fear. Fear that I'm going to lose something I hold so dear, or fear that I'm not going to get what I want. Those are those two fears there. For my dependency, while those words, absolute dependency, may look like a gimmick, they are the ones that help to trigger my release into my present degree of stability and quietness of mind. Qualities which I am now trying to consolidate by offering to love to others regardless of the return to me. It's all it ever is. See, that is emotional sobriety right there. That is emotional sobriety. You know, um, by offering love to others regardless of the return to me. Now, why can we do that? Because we already have it. Hmm. Yeah. When I tell somebody that I will help them and sponsor them, I don't know. I don't know them. They don't know me, but there's no expectation. See, there cannot ever be an expectation. Let's talk about sponsorship with that a little bit. Okay. Let's stick to the book. Quit handing out homework on steps 1, 2, and 3. Okay. I would much rather you went to an AA meeting and you got a week of sobriety and you said, "Hey, I made it a week," so that the person with one day is like, "Oh, I can do this." A week, well, because they listen to me, 8 years, fuck that. You're lying. You're full of it. That's going to be much better for you, even. Yeah. And then after a week of being sober, you're like, "Oh, fuck, I am useful. I did something good and useful." How did that happen? You had it all along. You just didn't know how to use it yet. See, we're naive to all of this. Unless somebody comes along in our lives and sits us down and gives us point blank directions, we will not do it. We will make decisions based on our own information. Okay. And we got to watch that. I've been doing this a long time. I do not make decisions by myself. No. This seems to be the primary healing circuit, an outgoing love of God's creation and his people, by means of which we avail ourselves of his love for us. It is most clear, and the real current can't flow until our paralyzing dependencies are broken, and broken at death. Only then can we possibly have a glimmer of what adult love really is. Now, what did we say at the beginning? It proves to be an impossible. Let's see, these adolescent urges that so many of us have for top approval, perfect security. That's what we're talking about. That's what they're talking about. See, as an adult, I didn't know what love was. Nobody. Well, that's not true. My wife did, but nobody else in this world gave me unconditional love until I came to AA. Everybody always wanted something. They wanted something. That's why it's hard to get an alcoholic sober. Because if you approach an alcoholic and try and get them sober and you're even being paid, they won't listen to you, even if you have all the experience in the world. But you and I can walk into that room and they're like, I'm here to help you. What, because really, what is it? Hi, Amber. Welcome back. Welcome back. You probably didn't hear this then, Amber. If you could give some quick directions on how to use the chat in YouTube, that would be awesome. Oh, we can do this. Watch. Where is it? Okay, is it right there? No, because then you guys are going to get some feedback like no other. So never mind. I'm not going to do that. So they have to be broken at depth. What does that mean? It's like when you weed your garden. Okay, if I just yank those weeds out, they're coming back next year, aren't they? So I gotta get out a shovel or a spade, right, and get down there, and I got to pull all the roots out too, or it's going to come back. Okay. Before I move on, we've only got a little bit longer. Before I move on, I'd like to discuss something real quick. Okay. Now, when it comes to other mental illnesses, because some of them, is at the bottom of the screen? Okay. I'll have to jump on somebody else's and see what it's like. So, thank you. I don't remember. Oh, here's the thing. Because I'll hear people come into the room and they're like a month sober and they're like, oh, yeah, I've been diagnosed with extreme, The thing is a lot of these go away. And here's the key. 6 months. See, alcoholism looks like every other mental illness out there. And since we are lying and not telling the truth that it is alcohol that is going on with us, it can look like ADD, ADHD, depression, narcissism. Yes, we are not true narcissists. Well, I've met a couple, but we have narcissistic traits. What do you think this is? This manipulation. Those are narcissistic traits. So 6 months is a key. If you get in the program and you're trying to get diagnosis, any good doctor, any good therapist is going to wait till you have 6 months of sobriety first, because otherwise it is not a legitimate diagnosis. Okay. Then we have what's called PAWS, post-acute withdrawal symptoms. And that can go, that's what we're doing. That's what we're talking about here. Because I would get angry and people are like, well, you need to do you haven't done a 4-step. I'm like, this isn't 4-step. This is PTSD. And I'm going to fucking kill you. I couldn't help it. Now, it's hard to explain, but it is not a resentment. I had worked through my resentments. These were the biggest intrusive thoughts I've ever had in my life. Okay. So therapy is great. I did EMDR and it took away a lot of my intrusive thoughts. EMDR was great. I loved it. And there are different ways. One might work different for you. It wasn't until a few months ago that my nightmares went away. I had nightmares every night. Now they're kind of fun. Problem is that I still have drinking dreams every night. They don't bother me anymore. I don't give it a second thought. But I think I'm drinking less and less. But before, my other dreams, they were continuations, right? So I would go to sleep, and when I woke up in the dream, I'd have like $5.12. Well, when I dreamed the next night, I had $5.12. It's weird. So it doesn't happen anymore. Anyway, and I bring up that stuff too, so that you're like, yeah, that kind of, I go through that stuff. That stuff happens to me. That way, you're not alone. Oh, somebody's available now. I'll call her in a minute. Spiritual calculus, you say? Not a bit of it. Watch any AA of 6 months. That was coincidence. That has nothing to do with it. Working with a new 12-stepper. If the case If the case says to the devil with you, the 12th stepper only smiles and turns to another case. He doesn't feel frustrated or rejected. If his next case responds and in turn starts to give love and attention to other alcoholics, yet gives them back to him, the sponsor is happy about it anyway. Yeah. He still doesn't feel rejected. Instead, he rejoices that his one time prospect is sober and happy. And if his next fallen case turns out later in time to be his best friend or romance, then the sponsor is most joyful. But he knows well that his happiness is a byproduct, the extra dividend of giving without any demand for a return. There it is. Well, I'll watch sponsors do this. We're not doing what I say, so you must not be willing. Are they sober? Yeah. Oh, fuck off. Yeah, controlling, telling people how to run their program is no. Because everybody's experience is different. You're going to have a different perspective. You grew up differently. Yes. All right. So, I've had a shit ton of sponsees, right? But I'm a forever person. I had one sponsor who was done with the steps, but he refused to sponsor. And I didn't let him go. I just said, I think I've done everything I can for you. And that was true. He just didn't want to do the next part. Okay? Who knows what God has in store for him? I don't. I do know that if he doesn't give it away, he ain't going to be able to keep it. But maybe I wasn't the one that needed to tell him. I tried. Okay? But I'm not going to argue with him either. So, the really stabilizing thing for him was having and offering love to that strange drunk on his doorstep. That was Francis at work. Powerful and practical, minus dependency and minus demand. Okay? If we are helping someone and we have an expectation, we're done. Just walk away. Because you're going to do more harm than good. And I know that because you're an alcoholic like me. And that's what happens. Okay? So what do we need to do? Check our intentions. Sure, there's relationships in AA. But it's when boy meets girl and falls in love immediately that we have a little bit of a problem. Because, see, we alcoholics, when we don't have our alcohol, we're going to go for a few things, money or sex, because it is what? Instant gratification. Ding, 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 ding. Right? Love hearing that sound with all that money coming out, right? Yeah. Actually, that's why I quit gambling, because it was the ding, 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 ding that fell onto the metal or whatever that I enjoyed. I could care less. I played penny slots and shit. All right. In the first 6 months of my own sobriety, I worked hard with many alcoholics. Not a one responded. Yet this work kept me sober. It wasn't a question of those alcoholics giving me anything. My stability came out of trying to give, not out of demanding that I receive. I've heard this in AA a little bit, where it's like, well, newcomers, they just don't have anything to offer. That is not true. That is not true. Sure, they have something to offer. It ain't working out there. Thank you for letting me know. But I don't say that to people. Why do I need to say that out loud? So they feel useful by cutting them down? It doesn't work. It doesn't work like that. So, thus, I think it can work out with emotional sobriety. If we examine every disturbance we have, great or small, we'll find out at the root of it some unhealthy dependency and its consequent unhealthy demand. Let us, with God's help, continually surrender these hobbling demands. Then we can be set free to live in love. We may then be able to 12-step ourselves and others into emotional sobriety. Yes. What is that? Let's be a good example, right? Can't transmit something you haven't got. Well, to us, that means if you haven't done it, you don't get to pass it on because you don't know what you're doing. I'll rephrase that one. I don't know what I'm doing as an alcoholic with no guidance. Mm-mm. Not, I'm just going to be spouting my own opinion and I'm not even going to stick to the book, right? Of course, I haven't offered you a really new idea. No, you just put it in a way that we kind of understand it, right? Only a gimmick that has started to unhook several of my own hexes at depth. Nowadays, my brain no longer races compulsively in either elation, grandiosity, or depression. I've been given a quiet place in the bright sunshine. Woohoo! All right, that's going to be it for this one. I hope everybody has a great Friday, and I will see everybody tomorrow. Thank you for being here. I love you. You know I do. Peace out.